Without the M2 Browning, this war would have been different.
And that's no exaggeration. When the Russians came, they were met with a wall of bullets.
Красава!
Mounted on a Humvee or an M113, the American heavy machine gun quickly became the true king of the assault.
When it's working, you can't even lift your head.
But now, rolling out on an M113 with a Deuce on the roof, forget it. One hit and you're meeting your maker before you've even flicked the safety off. If in this footage the score is 10-0 in favor of the 50 cal after 10 seconds of fighting, and here an American volunteer is putting on a masterclass with the Deuce during an assault in the early months of the war, well, today the score is always in favor of the drone operator. The Deuce genuinely helped the Ukrainians a great deal. But FPV drones changed the rules of the game. Today the front is 5, 10, sometimes 15 kilometers of death, a solid kill zone. Where before a machine gun ruled when repelling an assault, now it's a drone carrying 3 kilograms of explosives. Small arms firefights are a rarity. It seems like in these conditions, every M2 Browning in the Ukrainian army should just be carefully greased up and sent to a warehouse until better times, if not for a new leap in the evolution of combat that's happening right now. Unmanned ground vehicles. At first, soldiers laughed at these robots, calling them turtles. But now Ukrainian UGVs and ground turrets with the Deuce appear to be becoming a new phenomenon that's actually influencing the course of the war.
Everything that comes into the field of view doesn't fly any further.
Why did the old American machine gun become the perfect heart for the newest robots? And are ground drones really the new standard of warfare? And why are the Russians barely using them? Take off the rose-colored glasses. We're getting into it.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Weapons of Victory channel and hope to see you soon.
So the Russians first encountered a Ukrainian UGV near Kharkiv.
It was a surprise for them.
Honestly, this remotely operated cart with a turret isn't all that impressive at first glance, because this thing was literally built in a garage near the front line. So what's the operator's mission with this UGV?
War always means losses. We try to minimize them.
First, the UGV pushes through ruins where an enemy could be hiding. Then the operator drives it out into open ground, where the life expectancy of an infantryman is measured in minutes. The drone also has a tough time here due to limited mobility over rough terrain. Finally, the drone opens fire toward Russian positions hiding in a tree line. Of course, this isn't precision fire, because the recoil from the 50 cal makes the platform shake like a leaf in the wind. Pure chaos. But will anyone be brave enough to return fire? Experience shows there are no such madmen. So the UGV laying down suppressive fire covers the movement of friendly infantry. That's the first thing. And second, it draws fire from Russian mortar crews, which reveals their firing positions. What happened next? A few hours after this strange-looking probe, which at first glance looked like pure chaos, the Ukrainians hit the newly identified Russian positions with artillery, then assault, and take that tree line. If you want to see how that whole operation went from start to finish, we have a separate video about that assault on our channel. So just 12 months after their debut near Kharkiv, Ukrainian UGVs don't look improvised anymore. But standard solutions almost don't exist, because UGVs are being produced not only by many Ukrainian manufacturers, but also within individual units themselves. So everything is constantly being upgraded. Controls, batteries, hull, software. The one thing that stays unchanged, the M2 Browning. In that time, they've run thousands of missions. From resupplying the front and evacuating wounded soldiers to full-on assaults without a single human involved. You're about to see what that looks like. And yeah, the M2 Browning is doing most of the talking, so.
They drove into the village in the fog in cars, but then our UAV spotted them.
The UGV rolls in to settle the matter. The operator stares hard at the screen. No point waiting. The floor is given to the Deuce. Wait, what's happening here? The Russians are surrendering? Yes.
The thing is, the sound of an American heavy machine gun firing is absolutely terrifying. Plus, the sound of FPVs circling overhead.
And here's a little discovery about something not widely known about human psychology. Something that neither psychologists, nor science fiction writers, nor robot movie makers know, because this knowledge only comes from experience.
Yes, there's an interesting psychological factor here. A person understands another person because they can read their intentions from external cues, mood, voice, posture, and so on. But when you're facing a chunk of metal with a 50 cal, you have no idea what's coming next, whether it will shoot or not. That uncertainty is terrifying and paralyzing. That's exactly why they look so confused when they surrender.
But as you understand, the Deuce isn't mounted on UGVs just to scare the enemy. It's there to guarantee hits on targets. On the early robots, the American heavy machine gun fired chaotically because the platform shook with every shot. But over time, Ukrainians tamed those vibrations with a stabilizer and a fire control system. Here's how it works. After each shot, the AI calculates how much the barrel has deviated from the aiming point due to recoil and platform vibration. The operator simply gives the fire command or marks the target on a tablet, and the brain inside the turret decides the exact moment to pull the trigger. This is where another feature of the M2 Browning reveals itself. It's perfect mechanical timing. The impulse of the gun doesn't happen before the shot, but after it. When the round is in the barrel, there's an ideal micropause. And it's precisely at that moment that the shot fires, and the bullet leaves the barrel. Even an experienced machine gunner can't catch that moment manually. This delivers incredible accuracy. So much so that it has now become possible to engage aerial targets flying at speeds of 400 kilometers per hour.
Our main targets are Shaheds, and yesterday we shot down a jet-powered Shahed for the first time.
Where a machine gunner would burn through 50 rounds, the AI-powered system does it in just a few shots. These are remotely operated turrets based on the Browning M2 that independently find and identify targets and transmit the image to an operator who can be located far away. The job of the person with the gamepad in hand is simply to give the fire command. The fire control system allows it to operate at night too. These are footage from a nighttime clearing of a village house. In front of the UGV operator is a screen with a live feed from a camera and a thermal imager. A drone in the sky controls the surrounding space. And there's the house. If a Ukrainian fighter were there instead of the robot, the advantage would be with the Russian, because he's in cover. The UGV opens fire. The Russian thinks it's some kind of crazy Ukrainian, because nobody shoots while standing in the open. That only happens in movies. The Russian returns fire. But a robot isn't a person who ducks for cover, so the American heavy machine gun coldly finishes the job. Of course, operations like these are supported by recon UAVs and systems to counter Russian EW jamming, because without a signal, any UGV turns into helpless scrap metal. But as you can see, in just a matter of months, UGVs have significantly changed how Ukraine fights.
First our UGV clears the street, and only then do the guys move in.
So why aren't the Russians taking advantage of what robots offer? The Russian army has large platforms weighing 7 to 10 tons. They're too visible to Ukrainian recon drones and too vulnerable to artillery. On top of that, they're extremely rare, so Russian unit commanders can't deploy them everywhere. It's simpler to send a person on the assault, someone you don't have to file a stack of reports over when they're lost. And the final argument: the Russian army doesn't have the Browning M2. Russian 50 cal equivalents are not as stable or reliable. The Ukrainian army is betting on small, cheap, modular systems that are easy to hide and not too painful to lose. Hundreds of private companies and volunteer groups are competing with each other to build the best UGV. Developers stay in close contact with frontline units, so battlefield experience is immediately fed back into new models with better firmware and mechanical solutions. But the Russians are learning fast how to counter Ukrainian UGVs.
Every time our UGV goes out, it gets met by FPVs, but it takes the hit and keeps going.
Here's a robot meeting an FPV ambush drone, and here's one robot pulling another off the battlefield. You used to only see that kind of thing in Marvel comics. Look at how many robots were hit at a range of 100 meters. But that's exactly the point. It means a lot of soldiers' lives were saved. The US Army is studying Ukrainian experience closely.
Yes, sir. Just as a general way of doing business, their level of innovation is out of this world.
Who knows? Maybe we'll soon see a ground operation where UGVs are the main players on the battlefield. But there's a problem. American equivalents cost tens of times more, because they're more loaded with features. Drop a comment and tell us, what's better? having a limited number of feature-packed robots, or betting on quantity? And overall, do you think UGVs are really the future? Or is this just a local phenomenon of this strange war? Any thought or reaction you have to this video matters to us. And in these playlists, you'll find other videos about American weapons in the war in Ukraine. Stay safe and support Ukraine.